Hello, welcome back to Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I'm happy to see you. This is your first time. I'm Iris J, and we are going to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. I'm looking specifically at August 5th to August 11th. I have no idea how it's already August, how we're like fully in August. The slippage of time is a thing, but here we are. And we're talking this week, especially we have Mercury station retrograde. We have Venus switching signs. She is now in Virgo by the time that you're watching this. And we also have our Lionsgate portal 8/8. The yearly opening that we have. And we also have a building of some big energy, and that has to do with Mars and Jupiter in Gemini, and especially this week, how Jupiter's talking to the sun. So there's a lot. There's a lot going on. There are some rhythms shifting. We could definitely feel the rhythms shifting. And yet this week is really building to next week, and that is also going to be part of our Aquarius full moon when we get there as well, which is happening on the 19th of August. And so let's get into it. Mercury retrograde. Now, this is Mercury who's stationed retrograde in Virgo, and it depends where you are in the globe. Where I am, this happened on the 4th. It could happen on the 5th for you, but this is absolutely a gears and rhythms shifting, especially in August, because we have so much Gemini energy with Jupiter and Mars building into a conjunction, and that building is happening this week, but the actual conjunction is going to be next week. But Mercury rules Gemini. And so this is absolutely impacting the drive, because Jupiter and Mars are a lot of energy, and it's a lot of yearning and breakthrough energy. And yet Mercury goes retrograde. And this week, all Mercury retrogrades, it's really inviting us into that period of revision, the pause. Especially in Virgo, it wants to be a mindful pause. Virgo, Mercury in Virgo, especially ruling that Gemini energy, it wants to feel, especially in the body, the yearning, the breakthrough, the desire, the drive, the ideas, and it wants to be mindful. We do not want to rush impulsively into things. We want to feel the impulses if they're there, and then we want to take the practices that help us to really reflect, whether that's journaling or going for, getting out of a space and going for a coffee or a tea with a colleague or a friend or a partner, so that you have a different space where you can talk about the ideas, whether it is going for your nature places. But it's, really with this energy, we want to reflect and we want to slow down. Mercury retrograde is always asking us to slow down. And yet that energy in Gemini is building, and it might not really want to slow down. So then it's just, again, practicing the mindful body-mind connections, which is what Virgo is all about, and really coming into those practices that help us get out of our head. And this is another way that we can really interpret this week of feeling the shift into Mercury retrograde. And this Mercury is going to go back into Leo, but that's going to happen next week. So this week we're journeying with Mercury retrograde through Virgo. And especially because it's in Virgo, we really want to get into the body, and we really want to get out of our head. So that could be gentle exercise. That could be moving the energy. If you're having that strong kind of push breakthrough energy, moving it with exercise, and or whatever other practices help you move that energy. Writing can be really great for that as well. And then that lets us, but especially kind of those mindful movement practices that align breath with the body and conscious awareness, that's going to be really supportive this week, and you might want to lean into a bit of that, especially if you don't know what's going on, but you're feeling something pulling you. And this is coming again. We're coming right out of that Leo new moon, and that Leo new moon was all about inviting joy and creative breakthrough and planting the seeds. And we plant the seeds, and hopefully they start growing, right, in these lunar cycles. And oh my gosh, there's energy growing and building in the next 2 weeks. So this week we want to bring in that mindful awareness, and Venus has shifted into Virgo, and that's happening just again at the beginning of this week. And Venus is coming from Leo into Virgo. That's very, very different Venus energy. Okay, so we have, Venus in Leo is expansive joy. It wants to feel love and courageous love, and it wants to know no bounds. And then we come into Virgo, who's usually very good at knowing bounds, who wants the boundaries that are going to support the mindful path forward, who wants a bit of structure in a way that supports our values. We are on a mighty Venus journey. There's a beautiful Venus song unfolding during the entire month of August, and I have a video on that Venus song, which I'll link below. And it's really worth listening to that, because this month has a lot of very big energy. There's a lot of energy that's also going to be impacting the collective. And always with astrology, it's very personal, and Venus makes it personal. And so Venus has shifted into Virgo this week, and we're going to be feeling that shift out of Leo into Virgo. And this is, again, firstly, how do we need to be devoted to our own values? How do we need to be devoted in mind-body practices that support our body, where we house our values, so that we can build with our values on the journeys that we're on? Venus in Virgo wants to be a bit devotional. She wants to really encourage a love that lingers, a love that lasts. And she wants to do that through a bit of discipline. And so combining kind of this reflective need for a pause with the strong shift of Venus into Virgo, we also really want to make sure that whatever choices we're making at this point in our life, or especially if you're at a juncture, that they are speaking to your heart's values. And I'm always saying this because astrology always reminds us that our psyche is growing. This is why it's evolutionary astrology. We are changing, sometimes rapidly, especially depending upon our natal chart and what's happening for us. And our values can radically shift. We can have a dream, and then we can have something clear through that dream, even if we don't remember it. And we can suddenly say, wait a minute, I've been living this life, and yes, there's been some wonderful aspects, whether it's relational or work or however it is, but I haven't really been honoring my values. I've been living along the values that I was taught. And so this Venus and Virgo, with all of this energy going on, attention to our values and to how we can support our values every single day of our life. And on August 7th, Virgo energy is going to be the conjunction of that Venus moving forward and that Mercury stationing retrograde. Okay, so this is again building, and Mercury's moving backwards. For us, it appears that way, not actually moving backwards. And so on August 7th, we're going to have that conjunction. And that is really the call to reflect. What am I choosing right now? What is coming up? What am I at a crossroads with? What am I in the process of letting go of? What does that have to do with your values? How are your values shifting? How do you need to potentially be of service to yourself in a way that is aligned with your own spiritual path, so that you can be of service to others with whatever ways you're called to show up to be of service to others? That can also be of service to the environment, to animals and plants, however that shows up, not just humans, but that's part of the Virgo energy. And so there's a pause for reflection there as those two are conjunct. And that happens just before August 8th, okay? And also as this is happening, the sun is building in a sextile to Jupiter. So the sun is there in Leo, and Jupiter is in Gemini, and Mars is approaching that Jupiter. And so that conjunction between Mars and Jupiter is building all week. That full conjunction is going to happen next week. But Mars, as it's approaching Jupiter, Jupiter comes into its exact sextile. That's a supportive conversation. They're in a supportive relationship with our Leo sun. That is expansive energy. That is expansive energy coming through ideas, through relationships, through small community, into our heart center, our passions wanting to expand. And that's really building from the 5th to the 8th. And note that that's happening as that conjunction of Mercury retrograde, who rules Jupiter in Gemini, is conjuncting Venus. So it's kind of like this simultaneous expansion that also wants to be very reflective. So this is time not to lean in just to the impulse. This is time to mindfully lean into the impulse, which is really a lovely practice when we can do it. And that building of that sun that sun sextile Jupiter is approaching the cusp of the 7th to the 8th, and the 8th is our annual Lionsgate. So you've most likely heard of Lionsgate, and this gets talked about a lot. It is, it has to do with the star Sirius and it's rising, and it has to do with this idea of the relationship between the sun and Sirius and this kind of opening, Lionsgate opening, to upgrades in spirituality, to higher frequencies coming through, streaming through us, really coming through our heart, through our bodies, through our soul. You can certainly do some explorations and deep dives into the Lionsgate energy. There's also a lot of hype on Lionsgate. Like most things, I just like to practice an embodied practice, and that's just really feeling into the energy, what's coming. It's wonderful to journal. It's wonderful to meditate. It's wonderful to go get in nature and just let your Leo joy kind of skip around, however that's calling to you. And again, this is happening during Mercury retrograde, so just really being mindful. Also, one of the ways that Mercury retrograde could be really supporting this energy, both the expansion that's coming with the sun sextile Jupiter and also Lionsgate, is that because we're pausing, because we're being shown that we don't need to just move as quickly as we can, that's when these incredible breakthroughs of insights can come. That's when we notice the detail that sends us down a path, and Virgo is wonderful at noticing details, that sends us down a path and says, oh, this is where all that energy is going to funnel out, or, oh, this is where I can go find something that honestly we wouldn't have noticed if we hadn't paused, or if we hadn't taken that frolic into nature to just be there, and then we get the inspiration, or we get the sudden idea and understanding, and we get the alignment, and we know we're moving in a certain way. Even if it's just for a day, we know we're moving in a certain way, or maybe you get an insight into a much longer term path. Okay, but just opening to the opening, literally opening to the energy streaming through, and the insights and the divine energy streaming through. Sirius is also, especially in modern astrology, there's a lot of language around freedom with Sirius, and it's really lovely because in our new moon Zoom in our Patreon little community, the word freedom came up a lot with our new moon energy, and it's come up with clients that I've seen this week. So there's something around this freedom, and that is also a Leo word, and yet it's in Leo. So this is freedom to experience the joy, freedom to live our authentic, joyful self and not perform a false self for the sake of validation or the sake of a life that maybe is going to check off some boxes but isn't going to answer the yearning of our passions, right? This is, a time to align to the heart space and to, rather than looking for freedom from an external source in this context of self-inquiry and astrology, it's finding the permission within ourselves to love ourselves, to devote ourselves to our own values. That's the Venus devotion, and also the Mercury retrograde, to devote ourselves to lives of honoring our values so that we free ourselves from the external conditionings that we cannot but internalize. And then we spend most of our adulthood trying to unlearn them, and that is what we do, and it's usually a beautiful process. Also just noting, there's a lot of energy building. And so in addition to what I was talking about with the sun sextiling Jupiter, and that will be exact this week, there's also Mars coming for Jupiter in Gemini. It's a lot of energy that is building. It's really around the 7th that they're going to start getting into the period where we'll feel the intensity of it. And that's just going to build all the way through into next week. That exact conjunction is going to be between the 15th and the 17th, which is going to lead straight into our Aquarius full moon. That's also going to involve a square to Saturn. And so Jupiter is approaching its square to Saturn, and it's close enough that we're starting to feel it this week, but it's really next week. And so there again, we're feeling the build of this yearning energy in Gemini, but that is going to come into a square with Saturn. And so there also may be something that needs to be released in order to move forward. There may be radical changes coming with our Aquarius Uranian energy. That's next week. There may be radical calls for authenticity. That said, we're already planting seeds of that by slowing down and being really honest about our Virgo values and being of service to ourselves. So this is where this energy is all laying foundations and also working with what's coming in mid-August. So instead of some of the astrology podcasts that are out there that are just like, whatever they're saying about August, it's all part of a cycle. It's all part of another cycle. It's all part of the energies building and working with each other. And the Leo new moon was really, really important for laying the foundations and the seeds that are going to sprout and take us through the next few weeks. And this is where we co-create with these energies rather than either being controlled by them or going full blown into some spiritual bypassing, manifesting where we disengage from being in honest, open relationship with these energies, and we're just co-creating. And think about when you watch the most beautiful dance and it's a partner dance and those energy lines are moving and they're communicating, and that is how we can move with the cosmos and these archetypal energies that are radiating and we're embodying. Every now and then I make up a new word, so we've got embodying today. But that's what we're doing, and that's what embodied and evolutionary astrology are all about. And so just knowing, though, that intensity could be building, and that's where the pause with Mercury comes in. Also, I cannot forget to mention Vesta. Vesta's in Leo, and she's going to trine Chiron. That exact trine is going to be during this week. It's going to be the 9th through the 11th that we're really feeling that energy. This is a Leo Vesta trining a Chiron in Aries. Vesta is our goddess of the sacred hearth. She's our sacred fires within. She's the womb. She is creative energy. She is sacred sexuality. In Leo, she is super, super playful and healing, and she's actually healing through play. Play with Vesta is one of the ways that we really nurture those fires within and we light them, especially if there's any healing around second, first chakra, if there's healing around sexual violence, Vesta in Leo, and inviting a playful spirit with our own creative spirit and our relationship with the goddess is really healing with Vesta. And she is trining our healing, our wounded healer in Aries, and that trine just wants to be healing. Okay, so there, that Vesta energy in Leo and that heart space and the creative inner fires are wanting to heal that sacred wound of the self, are wanting to help us enact the self in a new way. So note that is going on this week as well, and that's in the second part of this week, towards the 9th through the 11th. But there's divine feminine energy pouring in to really support some joyful healing. And there's more divine energy that's, oh my gosh, Ceres is always, since April, just before April, since March, she's this drumbeat and she's still here. I just wanted to mention Ceres because she is our earth mother and she's in Capricorn and she is the wisest elder that there is when she is in Capricorn, and she's squaring the nodes. And so there is something also, and she's squaring the nodes all month. She's just like, Ceres has got us covered. She is the baseline that is just supporting us as we move through all these energies, and just always having in the back of our head that whatever's going on, whatever's changing, how is it wanting to, like in our bones, bring about an earth wisdom that is about the realignment to natural cycles, that is about the realignment to the earth mother wisdom, that is the elder wisdom that wants to, speaking to the nodes, be part of how we conduct our own life and our own sacred self in Aries and our own impulses, and how we show up in relationship with others. There's this wisdom that's wanting to stream throughout our bones and hold us in like a skeleton integrity, so that we can come into this shifting of alignment during all of this big shifting energy. Okay, so this week is really part of the building, but also you're going to note those kind of shifting rhythms of Venus into Virgo and Mercury retrograde. And with that, I will see you when I see you. Take care, journey well.